doing anything. There it goes. Numbers. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DevDive, a conversational podcast where we dive deep into the world of indie game development and uncover. Undercover? Well, look at us, Andy. We're undercovers. We uncover the stories behind the games that we love. On this week's show, we have Antônio Harger, tech lead, game designer, and Renato Shkar, narrative designer of Point and Sheep, developer of Bloodless, a stylish action adventure game featuring counter-based non-lethal combat. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey there, how you doing?
Thank you so much for coming out and doing this with us. I understand the scheduling was a little nutty for this one. And of course, with me, as he's with me every single week for every single show, he's Andy Asimakis. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm gonna gush.
You're gushing
so much about this game. I feel like I want to hold myself back, but I've been playing this game nonstop since the demo got released for Next Fest. While there's no blood, I'm gonna pour on buckets of praise because this is I couldn't put it down. God damn you people!
I mean, that's kind of the point.
Making a good ass game that I couldn't stop playing.
How dare you? How dare you guys?
When there's other things I had to play. Like I had like 20 wish lists, got them all like demos, got them all on the Steam Deck, ready to go for like a nice long weekend of just playing a bunch of stuff. This monopolized most of my time.
Yeah, like we can't wait to have more of the game for people who want to play
it. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. So who wants to give the, I gave the quick descriptor, but who wants to give the maybe 60-second elevator pitch of what exactly is Bloodless?
I can do it.
Go on.
Yeah, so, do you want to do it?
No, go on.
Okay. Yeah, so Bloodless is an action adventure, like top-down with retro, sort of modernized pixel art. We do like that sort of 1-bit style, but kind of add lighting to it. And yeah, it's parry-based, basically, and it's non-lethal because you play sort of a pacifist Ronin. So you don't kill anyone, and you can kind of approach all the combat by just countering stuff. You have other options, but it kind of all goes into countering because sort of you can counter the attacks, but you can also weaken the enemies and then just disarm them. But you never kill anyone. And yeah, it's kind of very much something in between Zelda and Sekiro, because
interesting. Okay, that's a very interesting couple of very popular games to pull from.
Yeah, and it very much is a product of like the interests of the team and even the diverging interests of the team, because some people in the team are very much fans of Zelda, and some are fans of FromSoft games. And we kind of managed to meet in the middle for this game, and it's been very fun.
Yeah, like we believe making a good game is collaboration. So we have different views, perspectives, and tastes related to gaming, and we try to bring it all together when we're making Bloodless. So, for example, me and Danilo are huge Nintendo fans. So we're always bringing this perspective of Zelda. I mean, it's my favorite game. And Antonio here is, he likes to see people suffer and die and struggle.
I also like suffering and dying and struggling.
Yeah.
So it's not just when it's the others.
So that's what he brings to the table with us.
I thought, I was going to say, Steve, I thought I was going to hate this game when I first started playing it, because the first couple of screens, it's like, I kept asking myself, why can't I just kill these fuckers? Like it just, I was like, because you're trained to just go on a killing spree, but the game was like, no, it's not about that. It's about not being peaceful and disarming people and watching them scurry away. Where did that peace come from? Why? Because in you can still kill things in Sekiro and Zelda. That's all you do in those games. Where did the whole non-lethal aspect come from for Bloodless?
Well, it began with that. We began working in this game with a game jam. The Ludum Dare game jam from was it 2019,
It
Antonio?
was like late 2019, yeah.
Yeah. So the theme of the game jam was you start with nothing. We ran around a few ideas, and we came up with a samurai that starts without a sword and acquires the sword by the end of the game. But we never managed to make the part where the samurai gets the sword. So that's what the game became, right? That a samurai with no sword trying to disarm whatever comes his way. And from this prototype, we worked on it. We we put a story to it. Who is this samurai, and why doesn't he have a sword? So yeah, after a long time of iteration, it became Bloodless.
How do you take a mechanic that everyone can understand, which is you defeating enemies, and in 99.99999% of all video games, that is killing or knocking unconscious, whatever it may be. How do you make it rewarding for a player to go at these challenges in a non-lethal way? How do you keep that visceral feedback to kind of still tickle that same part of our Neanderthal brains?
I guess sort of the easy part of that is that pairing is already something that people find fun.
Okay.
Right?
Like the
So
timing of it all, and like
yeah, and like our director, she's great at game feel. So like from the first prototype in the game jam, it was already kind of the coolest thing about the game, how good it felt to counter the enemies and like parry. And she did those animations of like the enemies running away scared. And yeah, I think that was the easy part. I mean, there's a lot of revisions that we had to make like during the project, but it was mostly to make it feel like, to make it communicate all of the intricacies of how the counter works. But like making it fun was the easy part, like making sure that people understood when they did it wrong, why they did it wrong, and that kind of stuff. That was like the tricky thing.
Yeah, and everything about this game, when I look at it, because it feels like you're playing 8-bit side-scrolling beat 'em up by the format. Enemies come at you from all sides, and you can sort of like you instinctively want to just start bashing away to clear a path and move forward. But here you can't. There's no hacky slash. You have to be very methodical and time like when the dashes are going to happen. Look at the enemy's movements and how they telegraph their attacks as well. So it's a bit of a dance. And I think that piece, coupled with how well the parrying feels, is why I couldn't stop playing.
It's very similar to if you were to play one of the Arkham games without an attack button. It's almost like you are very patiently waiting for the bad guys to do their thing, and then you just kind of quickly just toss them on there. It's like what? Sorry, I just got a visual, but it's like watching those horrendous Steven Seagal, he's 350 pounds throwing tiny people around videos where he doesn't move until they come to him, and then he just slaps them to the floor. It's very very reminiscent of that, where you just have to be patient. You have to wait for your moment to, and it's about your positioning too, and that's kind of where your active ability, your active gameplay comes in, where you're not just reactive. It's putting yourself in a position to have the optimal reaction spot, so to speak.
Yeah. I guess one of the sort of subtle differences in how the parry works in our game is that it's a dash, right? Because like in the example of the Arkham games, if I remember correctly, it's just like the enemy comes at you and then you press like with the right timing, right? As they
you could like leap over them.
There's like a prompt.
Yeah, and you could leap over them or slide under them depending on like what
the input.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like since our counter is a dash, sometimes the enemy won't come at you. Like one of the first sort of twists that we add to it is that there's enemies that like will hit you, like try to hit you, and then the weapon gets stuck in the ground, and you have to like go at them with the counter, but like they're not coming at you. So you have to it's kind of an active parry.
Yeah, like right? wait for your opening, go in, hit him real quick. Yeah.
And we began like trying to have fewer actions possible, so it stays simple. So we worried about the players trying to dodge attacks, and we try to make the players counterattack with the same action. So it's one dash for everything, and since the game revolves around it, this dash counter mechanic, we spent some time polishing it, making sure it feels so satisfying as it hopefully feels now.
Yeah, and I guess that's very much like a product of us starting this game in a game jam, because like if you are trying to save time, you just make the dash and the counter the same thing, right?
Right. Yeah, simplicity is king in that.
Yeah. And that has carried into the game. Like that's kind of the main mechanic.
So how do you scale difficulty then? Like as you get further and further in the game, Game Design 101 states that the game should get more difficult, or there should be more in your arsenal, or more abilities at your disposal. How are you balancing that as you get later in the game?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how like we kind of already had a lot of the ideas for what we would do in the end pretty early, like with the variations of the counter. Like we have stuff like that where an enemy has a attack that's mostly unblockable, and then it has a portion that's blocked, that's like blockable. And so we had already like very early a lot of ideas of like, oh, you have to block it in the start, you have to block it in the end, changing up the timing like that, or making you have to go after the enemy. And some of the sort of trickier twists came later. Like we have enemies that have like their weapon, that's not in the demo, but it's in the trailer, I think. Like their weapon is a and sort of, how do you call those? Like an iron ball with a chain, and they throw it.
Yeah,
and then
flail.
Like you have to
I forget what it's called, but yeah,
it's ball and chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wife, someone's wife.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
The metaphors go on and on. Crippling depression. It could be anything, really.
Yeah. So that allows us to do a lot of different twists for each enemy, and we kind of try to like we build an arsenal of twists, and then we combine them in like later enemies. That's kind of how it goes.
And there's also like an arsenal of like abilities too, because you would think, okay, this game is all about non-lethal takedowns and parrying your opponents, but it's more than just this dash technique. There's this thing that I just thought of Psylocke every time I used it. It's like this key attack, purple punch technique that can like reduce your enemy's stamina and wear them down. What other things like that are we going to be able to unlock as you progress throughout Bloodless?
Well, we spent a lot of time struggling if like if we were gonna add this mechanic or not, but it felt like very still. You had to wait a lot for openings if you didn't have the key attacks. So the key attacks came in because of that, but it gave us so much more to experiment with difficulty, to increase it. Aside from the enemies, Tomoe's moveset is increasing each time. So you learn to do more things. Aside from the basic key attacks, which is a combo, which is a combo of 3 punches, sorry. Tomoe can get trinkets, items that can modify those punches, and she can get also something called secret techniques, which are specials that you spend a resource. Sorry, you spend a resource, to do these attacks, and if you do some side quests, you can unlock a few of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like it doesn't change a lot, the basics of it, but we have a lot of modifiers that you can add either with stuff in the crest or with stuff you unlock in a skill tree. Like there's a lot of different twists of like you getting unique advantages in the key attacks, but the combo kind of stays the same.
So, like, are these key attacks going to be like give you the ability to maybe, slow an enemy or like trip them on, trip their feet out from under them or something like that? Like, I'm trying to think of like non-lethal, very like almost like a, teasing an enemy into running away. Like you can't get near me, you can't beat me. So like tripping them on the ground a bunch of times or something like that. Like what are these skills that you're unlocking in the skill tree that are unique enough to feel important and something that you would want to have in your repertoire?
Yeah, because like the key attacks are basically an alternate way to counter the enemy, right? Like if you deplete all the stamina, the counter is kind of free. Like the enemy is like stunned, and you just hit them with the dash, and it kind of counts as if you countered one of their attacks. But the kind of I think the greatest, like at least my favorite example of a mechanic that can both serve as that strategy of like depleting the enemy's endurance to counter them, and as something that's useful even if you're just gonna counter them, is that there's I forgot what the name of the ability is, but I think we in the team usually just call it key counter. But it's if the enemy is doing a red attack, which you cannot counter, there's this small timing window with this ability that you unlock in the skill tree, where if you hit them, like it deals extra damage and like stops their attack. So if they're gonna do they're in later enemies, there's a lot of them that have attacks that you just cannot counter. And like you kind of have to dodge those and then wait for the attacks that you can counter. And those are usually very tricky, and you need a few times to learn the patterns. And like if they're gonna do one of those attacks, you can like one of the attacks you can't counter, you can try to stop the attack, and then you just avoid the whole thing.
Oh, I need that.
Yeah, there are the red attacks and the white attacks. Now, usually you can only counter the white attacks.
Yeah,
and I think this key counter is based on something from Sekiro, right?
Kind of like we wanted some twists. I think what we thought about when we did it was the Mikiri counter.
Yeah.
That's like right. The timing is similar, but it's different in that it's not you using an attack. It's like you dodge into the enemy. But that was definitely one of the references. And I think before we sort of fully developed the attack, we were saying like we need something like the Mikiri counter. We need a twist like that. So that's how we got there, I think.
See, I need that for the demo. There was like a part where like for those big like brute enemies that you have to like deplete their stamina essentially twice to get them disarmed and to flee from the stage or from the screen. There was like 4 of them at one time. I was like, guys, this is a lot. I can't juggle all of this when my monkey brain wants to just button mash a punch button, and I can't because that's how the game is designed.
It goes against your monkey
It
brain.
does. It really like undoes your programming a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's a bit of the From Software like inspiration and DNA, like not letting the player just do the easiest thing all the time.
Yeah, and it's not an easy game either. Like some of the challenges, like the optional challenge content I was coming across, I was getting my butt kicked. I was swigging tea to get my health back. That did me no good.
No good.
That's a fun mechanic too. I want to touch on this whole brewing tea at a campsite that isn't just for health. You can do it to brew potions for health, but there's also you can use ginger to increase your stamina, like make it infinite for 30 seconds. Or I came across like a red bean that makes your attacks stronger. Where did this whole tea brewing concept come from? And what more is there to this piece aside from those 3 herbs that I found in the demo?
There's just another one, is the Sakura petals.
Mm-hmm.
It's for refilling the special attack.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. And I think we were going for something like the flask from Sekiro and the likes. But we felt like we could do something more, something that wasn't so obvious. So we tried to mix and have some effects. I mean, with the setting of the feudal Japan, tea is something so strong, and we wanted to touch upon that. So we thought of a few effects, and I think it also adds design variety. So the player has to choose the optimization for the combat he's going to go. I mean, sometimes it's better to just fill all your slots with healing tea. Sometimes it's good to have a stamina tea just in case, And we have some different scenarios, like in scenarios with a lot of water on the ground. The player moves a little bit slowly, dashing consumes a bit more of stamina. So in those cases, it's better for you to have a stamina tea. And, you're going to have to build your strategy with those things in mind.
Yeah. And one interesting thing about how we made the tea mechanic, I think, is that we kind of initially wanted to do more with it. We wanted you to be able to mix stuff. But that was definitely something that would take a lot of like design iteration, and we kind of just didn't have the time for it.
Sure.
So it was definitely sort of an exercise in like making things interesting with very little. One thing that's barely in the demo, it's like just for one fight, because you like near the end of the demo, you go to the tea house and you get another gourd, but it's a small one, so it only fits one use of tea instead of the regular one that fits 3. And that's like, because I guess we wanted to avoid the problem where if you're gonna get 3 sips of tea, you usually just want more healing. But if it's just one healing versus having the option to at once use the sort of attack buff for 30 seconds, because you usually don't get to use that sort of buff a lot of times in a fight. And so like spending 3 slots sort of on it was kind of something that players usually, or at least me as a player wouldn't usually want to do. We kind of often have, I guess, are surprised with the different play styles when people get to the game. But like that was something that was sort of a tiny change that allowed a bit more strategy with it.
So, Andy, do you have any more questions regarding Bloodless? Because I do want to shift gears just a little bit in a second. Do you have any other gameplay or story questions?
I mean, the one thing I do want to touch on before we shift is the graphics of this game.
Yeah,
because I think
gorgeous spriteware.
That was the first thing that kind of caught my eye. It's not like your traditional 8-bit full-blown NES palette of colors. It's very simple, less is more, and it almost feels like you're fighting under the moonlight as you go through this forest. That's the vibe it gives me. And I'm wondering, how did you guys settle on this very simple yet very effective art style for Bloodless?
Well, we build it slowly. I mean, we love pixel art. It's very beautiful, but we like to add. You know, we have technology now. We're not in the 80s where pixel art was the only thing they could do. So we, as always, like to add a little twist to stuff. So yeah, pixel art, we love it, but what can we add to it? And from the beginning, as Antonio was saying, in the game jam, we wanted to do things very quickly. So that's why it was a 1-bit thing. It just had like black, white, and red. But when the game jam was over, when we decided to work more on this project, we started to experiment, like, what can we do? Can we add lighting? Can we add dithering? What can we do with pixel art that's new?
Yeah, and like I guess one thing that was a big influence and a big change was when like we were in that 1-bit style for a while after like we made the game jam and we started thinking we want to work more on this project and make it into a full game. But I saw the game Return of the Obra Dinn, and it has that dithering style with I think it's just 2 colors in it, or maybe like 3. But I think once I saw that, it was kind of immediate. I was like, we need this in our game. I just thought, no one else is doing this. We need to do this. This will make our game unique. And it really fits what we're already doing. But turns out actually getting that style takes a long time. At least it took for us. Like I think we had about 2 months or something of just me going, wait guys, it's gonna work, and like me trying out shader stuff, which I'm not incredibly proficient at or anything. So I was just trying things out, and the creator of Obra Dinn, I think Lucas Pope is his name, he had some blog posts about how he developed the shaders for the game. So that was incredibly helpful. And we just mixed a lot of different things, tried out a lot of different things. It very much took a long time for us to get to this specific style, because the tech needs to be constantly like updating to see, oh no, we want to do this more this way. And then the water took so long. I think we have some very unique style to our reflections rendering, and it took a very long time to get there.
Yeah, it's funny how
it's very pretty. It's very, it's like pretty in that like haunting kind of unsettling way. Like the character stands out amongst this kind of morose sort of background. Like the colors are not, you didn't pick like the brightest and prettiest colors either. Like you chose like as gray and off-putting as you know what I mean? Like you've chose to make something off-putting beautiful, and I think that really helps with just the overall art design of the game. It does make it very unique and very different. You don't see that often. A lot of times you'll see, you know, if red is the main color, you're going to see a lot of browns and like sepia tones and some purples in there. And you're going to see a lot of that palette kind of get spread throughout, you know, the levels. And it's very difficult not to look at, you know, if you're designing a big boss, it's very difficult to look at it and not want to make it as outlandish and crazy colorful and like all the, you know, all these things and detailed and everything. But you're able to make these enemies intimidating just using a couple of shades. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's also more impactful, like when you see like there's a moment in the demo where someone actually gets killed and there's like a slash of blood just on this colorless floor, and it just, in a game where first of all the theme is non-lethal takedowns, seeing someone die is a gut punch and it hits you right away. And then the striking visual piece of this like bright red blood and there's no other color around you, it just hits you even harder than you thought it would. So it's like, it's a great marriage of the game design, its intent, and the graphic sort of feeding into that concept, and it just works so well together.
Yes, totally. The idea is to, you know, everything to come together, like the design, the graphics, the story, they're all telling one thing. You know, the gut punch that you say that you received, it was very intentional. If it was a game that you started killing folks from the beginning, you wouldn't have that like from seeing.
You'd be desensitized to it. Desensitized immediately to when that does happen, like it actually meaning anything, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the sort of the specific thing about the palette changes, I think we approach it very much similarly. Sometimes even like directly that, like whenever we change music in the game for like the tone of a scene, we kind of have to ask, do we also change the palette here? Because it very much is about the mood, right? There's some scenes where the character is calm and that's shown in the palette. There's the scenes with death, usually we'll have something like that palette. And yeah, it's very much about like we have the palettes that are in the game areas, kind of like Pokemon, but we also have those mood palettes.
Gotcha.
And if you're curious about how long we came from the beginning, in our Instagram, Point and Ship, we have very early tests of the lighting.
Oh no, don't look at them.
And shaking.
I want to look at them right now, actually.
It was definitely an iterative process.
I do want to go back to the formation of Point and Sheep. Like that was something that I definitely wanted to touch on, because, you know, in Steam, Bloodless is the only game under Point and Sheep. I don't know if you've made smaller titles elsewhere or anything like that, but can you talk a little bit about the formation of Point and Sheep and how that got started, you know, maybe leading up to the game jam?
Yeah. Most of us met through sort of working in the industry and going to game jams. I think the only two people in the team that had known each other before were Danilo, our producer and the director for Bloodless, and Renato. But like, I just met Danilo in a game jam, and we also met Felipe, our sound designer, in a game jam, and I think Leona was not in a game jam, but was like
no, it wasn't.
In the
it wasn't in the game jam. It was in the industry. Yeah.
But
go on.
We kind of wanted to make this sort of games for a long time, but we had to have jobs.
When you say we, who's we? Like, who's the core that decided we're going to make a company, we're going to make a game studio, and it's going to be called Point and Sheep? Like, who's that
Yeah.
core?
It's a
Yeah,
great name, by the
guess
way, I have to
if
say.
if
Thank you.
but I guess the one person is Danilo. He sort of has been trying to make a team for a few years, and like I've been in some teams with him that sort of didn't work out. Like when I met him at a game jam, like we were at a local site of the global game jam, and I just talked to him because I liked his game. And then like I don't know, in a week I was already like making some project with him and one of his friends, and that project didn't work out. So a few months or years later, he called me to make it some other project. Like we were always trying to make sort of some sort of indie studio, and I don't remember when exactly did you join, Renato? Do you remember that specific time?
I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Okay.
Well, we live in Brazil, and the industry here, the gaming industry, it's more like there are those mobile games, and you can work for like 3D companies for like
Outsourcing.
outsourcing assets, 3D assets, stuff like that. That's basically it. And like those are not the things that we love in video game. Those are not the things that we wanted to do when making video games. We wanted to make like the games that we love. And it was a common thing that we all shared, like me and Antonio, Danilo, Leona, she's our art director, and Felipe, our sound designers. We didn't know each other, but we had this thing in common. So while trying to work in this industry, trying to find fun in it, and participating in game jams, we sort of found each other, and we spend a lot of time just making games for game jams until we met this exact group that we have right now, and something clicked with Bloodless. And it was after Bloodless that we decided that we needed to go forward with it. So yeah, we had a game jam experiment. We had the wheel, and we spent a lot of time just after hours, after working hours, we stopped our jobs and we just worked on Bloodless. And yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah, and I guess just one thing about that also is like we don't have any other games on our Steam page, but we do have a lot on itch.io.
Itch.io,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. That
If
is
you look for it.
that is a bastion of the indie gaming space. Funnily enough, I believe our first guest ever was a Brazilian studio. Isn't that correct there, Andy?
Yeah, it was.
Yes, Long Hat House. That was our very
Oh,
first
they're great.
interview.
They're great.
Yes, Dandara was
I
coming
love
out
how
on
they
the
all
Switch.
know each other.
I know.
I love this
well, when
community
you
so
say,
much.
I
love it.
the whole like we knew back then, and that was in 2017. I think it was 2017 that the Brazilian games industry was very limited, and it was very difficult to get funding. It was very difficult to be taken seriously, and that was then. And it's seems to be getting better. Can you talk a little bit about how the industry has changed in the last, let's say since pre-COVID, since 2019 when you did this game jam? Like, how has the industry shifted in Brazil? Or evolved in any way?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more projects. I guess like the kids are getting very good at the game making thing. Like you go to events and you see a lot of these really young developers with incredibly cool games. It's great to see that. But it is tough to get funding for games. And we usually get funding like internationally, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's even like what I've heard talking to other developers is that usually just and it's kind of our experience as well. Like sometimes publishing companies come for us like already expecting a lower budget, right?
Right.
And
It's a
yeah,
cheap market here.
yeah, like and it's kind of infuriating because like there's a lot of good games here waiting to
Right.
be made. And
What's the economy of scale to that though? Like, is it monetarily cheaper in Brazil to make a game like and considering most video games, if not all video games, are released internationally on some scale, is that return of investment a little bit more easier to swallow? Like what's that balance like with when you're trying to raise money and like build a budget for a project?
yeah, like it's easier here just because the cost of living in most cities here is cheaper.
Right.
But yeah, I think they expect the cheaper prices just because they sort of, I guess, don't see developers here as having as much credibility.
Right.
So it's kind of just that. I think they want cheaper budgets because they expect the projects to sort of be higher risk because they like don't see as much credibility. So yeah, I
that's
think
bizarre.
that's very much the experience.
Yeah, that's bizarre. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want the projects to be on par with, you know, the rest of these indie game or even game development you know, centric countries or even cities for that matter, because the United States, yeah, we're a pretty big country, but you know, we have little pockets of game developer havens. Like, you know, you have your Texas, your Austin, Texas, you know, I think Houston might be a spot. I'm not 100% sure, but then yeah, like Northern California, you might have a little bit in LA, and then you know, you have your pockets of Canada too. But it's not like the whole country has this same sort of outlook on things. But you can't expect these low risk games to just come out without putting the proper budget behind it and say and you know, let's face it, the two of you or how large is the studio? How many members?
It's 10 people now.
Yeah,
Okay.
10 people.
10 people. The 10 of you could probably, if you had nothing, no money to put into this game, you could probably still put out a kick-ass game. We know that as gamers who have interviewed solo developers who have had no budget, you know, and people who have raised $3,000 on Kickstarter just so that they can get a kit to put a game on a certain system, whatever it may be. We know that the passion is what's going to make the, you know, Bloodless as good as it is. But where the money comes in is the PR, it's the marketing, it's getting the name out, it's figuring out how to put the product in front of the faces. And that's what these big, you know, the money people need to understand. If they want their money, if they want to make a good return on their investment, they have to invest in the marketing of these products. It's less about the creation of the products, and it's more about getting these products in front of people's eyeballs and in people's hands. This demo, this whole Next Fest thing, that it was just a boon for games like Bloodless. Being able to do that. Andy and I did a indie game showcase a little over a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago. And we know what went into just doing that. And
It almost killed me.
If we didn't have somebody literally offer to help us build those pages for free because they believed in what we were doing and they wanted to be a part of it and they wanted to help us out and all that stuff, if we had to hire someone to do that, that showcase never would have happened. we never would have been able to put together the Steam page that we put together.
It would have looked really bad.
It would have looked terrible.
We would have still done it.
Yeah, we would have done it, but it wouldn't
nowhere
have,
near as nice.
it would not have been something that any respectable indie dev that has seen one of them before, you know, would have wanted to been a part of. And as something as simple as being able to afford a person who knows what they're doing when it comes to advertising and PR and putting the shit in front of eyeballs and, again, in the hands of people that are going to play the games, man, you just have to make those investments. I feel it's like it pisses me off when that message is so difficult to get through the skulls of the people who hold the money bags.
Damn, Steve.
Well,
yeah, for sure. Like the whole attention economy thing, like we need to pay for the attention.
Yeah, man, it's sick. And you know, there are algorithms that, you know, you could put this game out by yourself, you could put it out with no PR, and maybe the algorithm will be in your favor. You don't know. It's a gamble almost every time. You know, maybe if 50 people see the game at the exact same time for whatever fortuitous reason, and then the algorithm says, look, 50 people saw this just now, this is really popular now, let's get it in front of everyone, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're great. But that doesn't happen for everyone. There has to be a broader strategy for, like, the people who are holding the money bags cannot just be money bag people. They have to be people with a finger on the pulse of the industry. And in a new budding market like Brazil has been in the last, we're approaching 10 years really since we've known anything about the industry there. It's still in its infant stages, right? It's still in its stages where it's just an investment to people who have money. It's not, you know, it's not as researched. It's not as, you know, you're not going to have a 20-something-year-old making the decisions on where $50,000 goes to in a, you know, a dev studio, or if it's going to get improved. You still have the 50, 60-year-old somethings that maybe don't even know the first thing about video games, probably can't even tell you where they're sold digitally, let alone, you know, how much money you need to actually effectively market your project. I guess this is just more of like an open forum conversation about, you know, do you see things getting better in the future? Do you see people starting to really pay attention to this and ask the right questions? Or do you still feel like there's a lot more to be done? And how do we get it done?
Well, I still think that putting the money in the devs' hands is great. Like, as you said, if we had no budget, we'd make the game. We're game makers, that's what we do. But before we had investment, it was really hard. Like, we had to work our jobs, and then at late hours we had to come with the game.
Making this game had a cost on like our mental health, and I cannot imagine how tough that would be if we had no investment. I'm not sure if we would be able to make it, just because like reality and priorities and having to put food on the table and all that.
Yeah, and like since we started, since we got the investment, hey 3D Realms, our lives
that's
really
a good
changed.
backer, by the way.
That's smart people.
That's a powerhouse. Those are good people.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
we're really happy that sort of they found us. But go ahead. Come on. Sorry.
Like our relationship with making this game got a lot better since we started getting the investment. And that's important, you know. The devs have to have a life to make their games. But you're right about the budget in marketing, because, you know, as I said, we make games. We don't know shit about marketing or something like that. So we need people with this kind of expertise, and that's where our publisher came in. And aside from investment, they have people who know this kind of stuff, who are looking at the market, who are making suggestions at us, And yeah, this thing Next Fest, it was a suggestion that they made. They prompted us to build a demo so we can put in this store and get eyeballs on us.
Yeah, and about specifically like the industry here, like one thing that definitely has like I guess the whole global crisis thing has definitely affected everything, but like I don't know, Brazil has gone through some rough years, and that has affected everything here. And like we like with the previous administration with Bolsonaro, like there were a lot of cuts to sort of any culture related funding.
Arts.
Wow.
Yeah, the arts got completely decimated.
Damn.
Yeah.
And like we have this sort of double fight in that aspect, which is one is to get games included with all the other sort of art forms that get funding, right? And also like just getting any funding at all. And yeah, and it's also tough because if you get a government funding, you kind of can't get a
external funding,
private
funding.
Oh wow.
Yeah, private funding. I think I don't know if there's a way to get that, and also like at least from the things that I had seen, at least, and that's sort of very much varies from state to state. But when we tried for one of those fundings, that it was just very, very small, like enough, just maybe enough to make a demo, right? So the scale of it at least wasn't there. But I think it's you can get some bigger budgets from the government programs, but it's, I don't know, tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I think like we're depending on the publisher and investments that are external. Internally, we you have to be very lucky to get a good deal nationally.
Yeah, I guess one other very important thing is that Brazil is huge, and like there's the reality of making a game is very different depending on where you live. So like if you're close to São Paulo, that usually that already is one less flight ticket to go to the bigger events, right? So, and we do not live close to São Paulo, we live in Recife. It's in the Northeast. And we do have like a very strong sort of game development scene with like the game jams and all of that across the Northeastern region. But it's like we don't have, I guess one thing that's probably just very different from other countries is, especially like in, I don't know, the US and Europe, like we don't have that many of the huge studios that sort of create an ecosystem around them, right? You have like, if you have Ubisoft in the city, like you will have maybe some studios, some indie studios of people who just left Ubisoft or stuff like that. And the way you get to the industry here is usually like either just start out indie or work in like mobile companies and that kind of stuff. So we kind of had to learn how to make this kind of game that we're making just by making it. Like we hadn't had the experience to make like with making an action adventure game.
Right. Well, hopefully
could have fooled me.
Yeah, could have fooled it.
You
have fooled everyone. All right, let's switch gears one more time because we are getting toward the end of our time here, but I would be remiss if we did not get a little touch of rapid fire in there. Just a little touch of it. So we're going to do a little rapid fire. This is where we, the listeners, the viewers, Andy and I, get to know you, to see what goes on in the old noggin, in the old wrinkled piece of matter between your ears. So I have still, it's a game related question and I feel like it could be a rapid fire. So I'm going to throw it in rapid fire.
Yeah.
What territory do you think Bloodless will sell the most?
Oh,
I think Japan.
I'm
the responses
Japan,
in
Really?
social media, the Japanese players
Nice.
really seem to like it.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I will say Japan loves it when folks from other cultures embrace their culture and make art from it. Like
Mhm.
Ghost of Tsushima did huge numbers in Japan.
Yeah.
And not a
And-
single Japanese developer on that team.
Yep.
Western developer, made that game, and Japan loved the ass off of it.
Love the ass out of that game.
And
All right, Andy.
we also reference anime and manga a lot in our game, so Japan definitely likes that.
I was workshopping a new question the
Okay.
other day, Steve. I asked this to my fiance, and he goes to me, "Did you just ask me who I would murder?" That was like that was
where it boiled down to.
That's what it got down to. But the
Okay.
question I want to ask, again, I may just pass on this, but whatever. The question I came up with was, if you were a toaster, whose bathtub are you jumping into?
Yeah, that is definitely
That's definitely like a murder question.
Who are you? Is that like who are you assisting in an unalive scenario?
I don't know. It could be giving a scare, maybe you're not plugged in.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, gentlemen, this is your rapid fire, so feel free to answer however you want.
Who was that guy that said they should add microtransactions to reload buttons in shooting games?
That guy.
That guy. Yeah,
Jumping in that guy's sub.
I like it.
Yeah.
What is the best way to fasten? Is it Velcro? Is it glue? Or is it tape?
It depends. Do you have to be silent?
Oh, stealthy, huh? No, just the best way, like your preferred method.
I think Velcro.
Yeah, Velcro. Yeah, Velcro.
Yeah, it's definitely more satisfying.
It's got that tearing sound.
Is
that the satisfying part?
That is. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, very much. And the sort of the resistance of it, right? It's very good.
I don't know. At work, I do a lot of step and repeats at work, and it's like this giant fabric graphic on this Velcro stand. And if you mess it up or you can't align it right, it's just you're fighting with that thing for like an hour to get it right. And it's like a 10 by 10 graphic too. But it is effective. So Velcro, I think, is the way to go, as annoying as it is. Let me see. If the two of you were a wrestling duo,
pro wrestling, let's go.
A pro wrestling duo.
They're called tag teams, Andy.
That's the thing. That was the phrase I was looking for. I was like, what's it called?
Tag team.
If you were a tag team, what would your name be?
I guess point and shit.
Which one is pointing?
Who's
I'm sheep. I'm sheep.
I'm points.
That would be hilarious.
Let's see. Pineapple on pizza. How do we feel about that? Yes or no?
I like it.
Definitely,
I think that's that's not that much of a discussion in Brazil because we have no respect for the sanctity of pizza. We put anything in it. We go to like those subreddits in Reddit that are like I don't know, food.
I got a tuna and bell pepper pizza.
I got to follow up on that. What is the most disrespectful pizza topping you've ever encountered?
Hey, those are always on the social media stuff. Like I can't recall anyone specifically. I guess I've seen sushi pizza.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little
Barf.
weird.
I think I've seen ice cream too.
What?
How does that
I don't
work?
doubt it.
Ice cream
I guess
pizza.
you put it in the end.
I don't know.
Life finds a way.
No wonder why you can't get funding.
We would
Because
be too
they
powerful.
gave money to a pizzeria and they did that with it.
Yeah.
We have those sort of like
It's art.
yeah, it's definitely an art form. Like we have these sort of crazy all you can eat pizzerias and like they just have all of these weird flavors. Like some of them are specialized in having the outrageous flavors.
This is like the Kramer philosophy, Steve. This is like you make your own pizza,
Mhm.
like any topping you want, literally. You can put in Brazil.
Basically, yeah.
This is for both of you. You can answer whoever feels comfortable going first. I like asking this of indie game devs. If you could pick any franchise to work on, be it a sequel, what IP draws you the most that you'd want to work on?
I guess mine's easy. I just think there should be more indie style, like just like how they did with Riot Forge with the League of Legends IP.
Mhm.
They should do that to Magic the Gathering. They just need to.
Okay, yeah.
That would be
I would love
really
to get
neat.
something like that.
Like a Magic fighting game, a Magic like
anything.
top
Like,
down
Literally
dungeon
anything.
crawler.
Literally
give
anything.
me like
Shit.
yeah, anything like an Innistrad survival horror thing. Yes, please.
A survival horror Magic the Gathering game. I want it. I will take that.
That'd be that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to do one more question here, and then Andy, you'll take us home with the final rapid fire question this week. Let's see. If you were a collectible in a video game, what collectible would you be, and where would you be found?
That's difficult. Well, in Bloodless, I would be an idol, warrior idol,
Wish you
and
would.
you would find me by let me see, by exploring a glitch of the game that allows you to
Ooh, a
go
glitch.
off the grid.
Yeah, got to spam the B button next to a tree, and then you kind of get into the tree.
Yeah, pixel perfect
Yeah, you know.
position.
Mhm.
You
Andy,
know those things that you only know if you go into a forum and there are people discussing how to do it.
I like that.
Andy, you would be a rubber dog chew toy with like a whistle in it, and you would be found in like a dog's bed in the corner of like a haunted house,
So here's
like an abandoned zombie survival like whatever house. Like all the people left, and there's just like corpse of a dog, and underneath him is like this chew toy of Andy.
I am also like in every fishing mini game that you get like a spare tire or a bag of trash.
Yeah, just a bag of
That's what I am.
You're the bag of garbage.
I'm like the random garbage pickup when you're
found
trying
Andy's
to find
bag of garbge.
No, it's you found
That's so
Andy,
mean.
a bag of garbage.
Okay, I guess I would be like in a From Software game, a dead corpse in a hammock, because I love hammocks. It would be like Ring of Anxiety or something like that. And you just, I don't know, it just reduces your
Oh my god, that's so neat! I love
points or something like that.
it's a skeleton laying in a hammock, and he gives you a ring of anxiety.
Yeah.
He was too anxious. He took a little lie down in the hammock. He was overwhelmed.
But I guess it didn't work out, huh?
Yeah.
It never does. It never does.
Cause of
Those
that
naps
anxiety.
never go well, ever. If you're in the middle of anxiety, taking a nap is the worst thing you could do, because your brain just
It won't shut off.
it'll haunt you. it makes dreams wild. Anyway, Andy, it is now time to take us home with a ceremonial final question of rapid fire, and then we will go home for the week.
That's gonna give me an aneurysm one day. I'm gonna be like 60 thinking about a skeleton with a ring of anxiety laying in a hammock and understanding how he got to that
All
point.
we have to do is take the ring off.
I'm gonna have it's gonna be a nosebleed, and then I'm gone. It's gonna fester and rot in my brain.
Why did he go to sleep with the ring of anxiety on? He could have taken it off.
Oh boy. All right. I always hate asking this question because it's after an hour of getting to know you fine gentlemen, and we've had some fun here. So the last question, it's a difficult question, maybe. Depends how fast you answer. The question is, and you can answer separately or as a team. It's entirely up to you.
It's up to you. No, you have to declare it now. Are you answering as a team or individually?
Oh dear.
I love that. We should always do that if it's 2 or more people. You answer as a team or you stand alone.
It would be hilarious for us to answer as a team because we usually disagree a lot with game-related questions.
I love it.
There might be a debate.
You're
By the way, I just noticed that you're wearing a Bloodless t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
I need to send you my
Thanks a
shipping
lot.
address as soon as possible.
Nice.
All right. Enough delay. The question is, Andy or Steven?
I think Andy needs some love, so I'm gonna go with Andy. He's calling himself trash.
Yeah.
You're not trash.
Hey,
Yeah.
You're my collectible.
That's fair. I'll allow it this time.
That's sweet.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to the end of DevDive. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Renato. Where could everybody find Bloodless across the interwebs? And of course, where could everybody find Point and Sheep?
Yeah.
We are
I don't remember like out of the top of my head the tags, but I think it's at Point and Sheep in Twitter and Instagram. And definitely the most important thing is find us on Steam and wishlist us.
Awesome. Yeah, we will have a link to the game on Steam as well. So make sure, listeners, that you wishlist, try the demo out if you're curious, if everything on here was just piquing your curiosity. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Renato. Thank you, Andy. And as always, please be excellent to each other.